Hello students, welcome back. Today we'll be looking at writing acid compound names and acid compound formulas. To identify an acid, you'll typically see a hydrogen ion in the front of a compound and a negative anion following it. With binary acids, you'll have hydrogen in the front and an element behind it. With ternary compounds, you'll have hydrogen in the front and a polyatomic ion, generally including oxygen. So make sure you follow the appropriate rule set for each one. So let's work out a few practice problems. Our first compound is HClO3. I know this is an acid because it has hydrogen in the front and it's followed by a polyatomic ion, so that means it is ternary. So with ternary acids, we do not name hydro. So I just name it based off its polyatomic ion, which is ClO3. Now ClO3 is chlorate. And if you remember, we change 8 endings to ic. So chlorate becomes chloric acid. So HClO3 is chloric acid. Next example, we got HF. We know it's an acid because it has H in the front of it. It's binary because it just has 2 elements. So for this rule set, we name hydro. Hydro means without oxygen. This one does not have oxygen. So we name hydro. Fluorine changes to fluoric. So this is hydrofluoric acid. Next example, H2SO3. Hydrogen in the front, polyatomic in the back. This is a ternary acid. We do not name hydro. We base the name off the SO3 polyatomic. SO3 is sulfite. Now we know it changes to us, OUS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the ITE. I'm going to add back its UR because sulfur is an exception in this case. You don't just straight change it to us. So I'm going to add back its UR. Then I'm going to put the OUS for the ITE. So H2SO3 is sulfurous acid. Next up is HI. I know it's an acid. Has hydrogen in the front. Has an element behind it. It's binary. In binary acids, we name hydro, followed by the element with the ic ending. So iodine changes to iodic acid. Next up, H2CO3. Got hydrogen in the front, polyatomic behind it. That's a ternary acid. We do not name hydro. CO3 is carbonate. We change the "ite" ending to OUS. So carbonate becomes carbonous acid. Carbonous acid. Our next example is HCl. We got hydrogen in the front, chlorine behind it. That's a binary acid. Binary acids, we name hydro. Cl is chlorine. We change that to chloric. So this is hydrochloric acid. Next up, HClO2. Hydrogen in the front, polyatomic behind it. It's ternary acid. Ternary acids, we don't name hydro. We base it off the polyatomic name. ClO2 is chlorite. So chlorite changes to chlorous. So this is chlorous acid. Next example, H2S. Hydrogen in the front, sulfur behind it. As you may guess, this is binary acid. We name hydro for binaries. Sulfur is an exception, so it does use its full name. So we'll have sulfur, and we add IC to it. So this is hydrosulfuric acid. Next example is HNO3. That's ternary acid. Ternary acids, we don't name hydro. We base it off that polyatomic name. NO3 is nitrate. We change nitrate to nitric, and this is nitric acid. Last example, HBr, binary acid. we name hydro. Br is bromine, we change it to bromic. HBr is bromic acid. Moving on to writing acid compound names, this is the reverse of what we just did. So you'll take the name, you'll write the compound. Things to note, those hydrogen ions always have a +1 charge. Your polyatomics will have a charge that doesn't change, so make sure you keep up with those to tell you the amount of subscripts for each atom. So first up is acetic acid. First thing I noticed, it didn't say hydro. Since it didn't say hydro, that means this is a ternary acid. I will still put my hydrogen in the front though, and that does have a +1 charge. Acetate, if I look at my common polyatomic chart, is C2H3O2. You also may see it as CH3COO. It's the same thing either way. Acetate has a -1 charge. So my hydrogen +1 charge and my acetate -1 charge are balanced. That means the subscripts are fine as is. So HC2H3O2 is completely fine. Next up is hydrochloric acid. First thing I notice is that hydro. That means it's binary and there will not be any oxygen. So I go ahead and put my H for the acid and I put my little +1 charge. Chloric came from chloride. Chloride came from chlorine. Chlorine is Cl, has a -1 charge since it's in column 17. These charges balance. There are no subscripts. So it's just HCl. Next up is phosphorus acid. I notice there's no hydro. No hydro means ternary because we'll have oxygen. I go ahead and put that hydrogen ion in there. Phosphorus came from phosphate. Phosphate is PO3. Now this has a -3 charge. This +1 and this -3 do not balance. So I'm going to cross my numbers down. This 3 slides down behind the hydrogen. So phosphorus acid is H3PO3. Next up is sulfurous acid. No hydro again. That means ternary. Means we got oxygen. I go ahead and put that H hydrogen ion. So sulfurous came from sulfite. Sulfite is SO3. And that has a -2 charge. These charges don't balance. So I slide that 2 right on down behind that hydrogen. Sulfurous acid is H2SO3. Next up is hydrofluoric acid. I notice hydro. That means binary. So I go ahead and jot down that hydrogen ion. Fluoric came from fluorine. Fluorine is F. F has a -1 charge due to it being in group 17. So those charges match. There is your formula. Last set, carbonous acid. I notice it does not have hydro, which means we're ternary. I go ahead and jot down my hydrogen. Carbonous came from carbonate. Carbonate is CO2 with a 2 negative charge. Those charges don't match. I slide this 2 on down. Carbonous acid, H2CO2. Next up is hydrobromic acid. I see a hydro, that means binary. I go ahead and put my hydrogen ion. Bromic came from bromine. Bromine is Br. Bromine's in group 17. So that means those charges are the same. So that means those charges are balanced. I don't need any subscripts. Next up, carbonic acid. No hydro, that means ternary. Got my hydrogen in the front. Carbonic came from carbonate. Carbonate is CO3 with a -2 charge. These charges don't match. I slide this 2 down. So carbonic acid is H2CO3. Next up is nitric acid. No hydro again. I go ahead and put that hydrogen ion. I know it's going to be ternary, so I need to know the polyatomic ion it came from. Nitric came from nitrate. Nitrate is NO3, has a -1 charge. These charges match, no subscripts needed. And lastly, we got hydroiodic acid. Hydro means binary, 2 elements. Put my hydrogen in the front. Base element is iodine, so I put my I. It's in column 17, has that -1 charge. Those charges match, no need for subscripts. And that is it for writing names and formulas of acidic compounds. I hope this video helps, and good luck on your tests.